feedback in terms of results here, whether or not this may or may not be influencing people in what they might decide in September?
Well, we've been building capacity over the last 3 months by getting the parties to comply with our request to advance their positions. I mean, we're still in it before the election campaign. We have some tools that we're going to be rolling out in the next 2 weeks out to New Brunswickers through our Facebook group, our 30,000 Facebook group that was so instrumental in getting information out prior or during the MB Power campaign. We have members of the Coalition, large organizations that are going to be distributing questions to ask politicians. I think when that question in September at our fourth report card, we'll be able to give a more concrete answer. We've been building for this next 4-week campaign. And we're hopeful that as these topics have gained traction with the political parties, that they're going to gain traction as well with the broad membership of the New Brunswick population. Certainly in the members of the coalition, this has been an issue that issues that became forefront for them back in the MB Power campaign.
I don't think you can rebuild something very fast that's been eroding over the last 20 or 30 years. I think we'd be fools to think we can change things in a month or 2 months or 3 months. We think this is a very long-term project. People will have to get involved and re-involved. But if we want to bring about change, it's going to be very time-consuming, and it's going to be over a longer period of time before we see some changes. And we cannot change what's been eroded for the last 20 or 30 years in 2 months. And it would be crazy. Our number one pre-election thing was to get the parties to commit themselves on some changes down here. So whoever comes to power in the next election, at least we have something on paper that we can go after and keep hitting them to be able to get this reform done.
We are publishing a document that's called Parties at a Glance, and it is a summary of the positions of all the parties on each of the topics. And our job is to try and now synthesize this into something that is digestible in a very short conversation. And it's based in values. Our whole program has been based in what feels right for New Brunswickers. We have a great sense of what's right and what's wrong, and many New Brunswickers, from the toll busters in 1999 to people who are involved in the MB Power campaign, that there's something that is wrong, it is broken. You know, for the Liberal Party to say it's not broken for them, we understand that. It works for them, but it doesn't work for anybody else. And as Gust has mentioned, it's a long-term, there's a lot of education that is required. But my God, that's normal in a democracy, to review the principles of democracy from time to time, to make sure they're contemporary, to make sure they are relevant. And we're here recognizing, as was this all-party task force, it doesn't work anymore. You know, Augusta and I and the members of the coalition didn't create this. This is reacting to it. And we don't need to forget, we don't need to build new or hypothetical examples. We have a host of examples where the democratic process has failed New Brunswickers.
Speaking of changes, you always say changes. Do you have any thought of the fixed date election?
Well, actually, the Federal Court of Canada has an opinion on it. They say that it's non-constitutional. And that decision was made in June. Fixed dates are taboo, according to the Federal Court. Is
it a good idea to have a fixed date election that everybody knows?
On a personal, no, it's not. You know, having an election in September, you know, you've been around the province all summer. People weren't in election mode. They weren't talking about issues. We just came through a horrendous winter.
It's a 20-day election.
It's a 20-day election. And, you know, you know, kids are still on vacation. Parents are in vacation mode. The kids will be getting back to school. There'll be carpooling arrangements. And, oh, yeah, and there's an election in 3 weeks. You know, we can't disagree. We cannot disagree with the Federal Court because it allows for manipulation of the electorate.
And if ever fixed state, there's a lot of changes that would have to be brought to it, because ever since the House has closed down, the province has been, or the parties have been on election mode, and it favors the parties in power. They have all the funds, they have all the departmental funds, they can pave all the roads they want, and it has to be tinkerable if ever it comes to be a reality. In other words, one of the things would be as simple as it has to stay the way it is that once government shuts down, it's closed, and departments only can operate on the funds that they have, and funds to be able to maintain themselves until after the election, or stuff like this. It's just an idea I don't know, but I think we would tell them. If the feds rule that it's not constitutional, then we have a problem.
So you guys think the old system where the party in power decided when to suddenly call the election was a better system than fixed election?
I mean, the debate on we're talking about process, and the debate, the federal court found that fixed dates were unconstitutional. Sean, and that's the...
I'm just asking you guys. I'm not asking about the court. You guys think that the old system was better than the current system?
Oh, we haven't really formulated a coalition opinion on it.
If you're asking personal opinions, you got a problem here, because we're not going to answer that one. Because there might be a difference between him and I right here. So.
We agree on what we agree on.
What did you make of the Tory claims yesterday that the Liberals have potentially illegally approved pensions for people outside of Canada?
Yeah, it goes to process once again. We're right in the under a dark cloud over the status of the MLA's pensions, and what we've said about it, that circumstance is that there has been not an open and transparent application of a process. We believe that as taxpayers who fund these pension plans, that we deserve the right to know who and how much and by which process they were provided those pensions. And there's a whole host of names that are being circulated as to who are receiving pensions. Many of us are hard-working individuals and work really hard for our daily wage and work really hard for our pension. We're not talking here against fair compensation, but in terms of public money, it gets back to transparency and accountability and openness. And I think that New Brunswickers deserve those questions to be answered against that test: openness, transparency, and what these individuals are in fact legally eligible for.
Yeah, I think generally people, New Brunswickers are fair. In that sense, it has on another system, at least they have an opinion, and they can try to voice a vote or influence whatever the government's going to do, but you still would always come back to the same thing as information. I think New Brunswickers, like I said, are very fair people, and I'm not talking about pensions only down here. I think when they judge things, they're very fair, and if they have the information, they will normally come up with a fairly good judgment. But if you do it behind closed doors and under the table, and then there's no information come up, of course people are going to react negatively.
But wasn't that the case of somebody living in a glass house